Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at the CBR article, 10 classic fantasy shows that have aged poorly.
Right.
And for you, our listener, if you want to get up to speed on this pretty quickly, we're going to break down why these shows, big deals back then, might not really land the same way today.
Yeah.
Think of it as your quick guide, basically. Understanding how fantasy TV changed without having to watch hours of old TV.
Exactly. And it's not just like a nostalgia trip. This article gives us a real chance to think about how storytelling, production, how it's all evolved in fantasy. We'll dig into the specific reasons why they're being reevaluated and what that tells us about viewer expectations now.
Okay, so the big idea here is how older fantasy TV just feels different now. We all have those shows, right? The ones we love.
Oh, definitely.
But the article's saying maybe going back isn't always what you expect. It can be a bit of a letdown sometimes. Why do you think that is, just generally?
Well, it's fascinating. It's a mix of things.
Yeah.
The article mentions the obvious one, special effects.
Right.
What looked amazing then can seem, well, pretty basic now. But it's also about how stories are told.
Okay.
And, what we expect in terms of representation, character depth. Things that maybe flew under the radar back then get a more critical look now.
Right. And the article gives us 10 specific examples. So let's kick things off with the 10th Kingdom. I sort of remember this one. Fairy tales meeting modern New York. Something like that.
That's the one. Virginia, the waitress, and Wolf, who's part werewolf. The article flags the wooden dialogue and characters coming across as goofy, almost cartoonish. It does say there's a certain quaint charm, and the idea itself is interesting.
Yeah.
But it suggests modern viewers might find it a bit, clunky. What was whimsical then might just feel underdeveloped now.
Interesting. Okay, shifting gears completely then. Kindred, The Embraced, the vampire show. The article sounds pretty harsh on this one.
It really is. The main issue, according to the piece, is this absurd rewriting of vampire lore, like ignoring the sunlight weakness.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And it mentions the horny vampires, saying they just weren't taken seriously. The article basically argues that the premise, while maybe intriguing at first, just feels ridiculous and absurd now.
Right.
It kind of shows how important sticking to genre rules can be for, getting the audience to buy in.
And it's interesting, looking at the comments people left, someone mentioned Kindred's ties to the vampire, the Masquerade RPG.
Okay.
Apparently, the show kind of ignored a lot of that established game lore, which, if you don't know Vampire, the Masquerade is like a really big deal. Lots of detailed mythology.
All right.
So you can see how maybe that frustrated fans of the game. And someone else mentioned, tragically, the lead actor died, and that's why the show got canceled.
See, that extra context in the comments is really important. It shows a show's reception isn't just what's on screen, is it?
No.
Deviate from source material people love, you risk losing them. And real-world stuff, obviously, can completely change a show's path.
Okay, next is Roar. Set way back, 400 AD, young Heath Ledger, trying to unite Celtic tribes against Romans. Sounds potentially epic.
It was definitely aiming for epic, yeah. But the article says budget restraints really held it back.
Okay. Always the budget.
Yeah. Apparently, it often felt empty and even soap operatic, despite the big ideas.
Yeah.
It's a good example of how, not having the resources can just stop a show reaching its potential.
Yeah.
No matter how good the idea or the actors are. Even, a young Heath Ledger might not be enough to lift it for today's viewers who are used to these huge productions.
Right, yeah. Budget's crucial for fantasy. Then there's Legend of the Seeker, based on Terry Goodkind's Sword of Truth books. I remember those books were everywhere for a time.
They were huge, yeah. And this is a classic case, the article argues, of an adaptation that just didn't quite hit the mark.
Okay.
Criticisms include, major changes from the books, lackluster acting and dialogue,
Ouch.
and dismal visuals. The author even wonders what it could have been with, say, a Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings budget. Really makes you think about the challenges,
Yeah.
Bringing a beloved book series to the screen and the expectations that come with that.
Definitely. Sounds like a missed opportunity for the book fans. Okay, now BeastMaster. This feels very late 90s, early 2000s fantasy, kind of riding the Xena and Hercules wave.
Oh, absolutely. Dar the Beastmaster talks to animals. The article says it feels aimless.
Aimless?
Yeah, like a campy mixture of Hercules, the legendary journey, and Tarzan. And the whole spiritual lore angle is apparently flat and strange. Suggests maybe it just tried to cash in on the genre's popularity without a really strong vision or, compelling mythology behind it.
That aimlessness, yeah, that can kill a show. Make it feel like it's just treading water. Next, The Adventures of Sinbad. Swashbuckling, monsters, Middle East setting. Sounds like it could be fun on paper.
It aimed for fun, definitely. But the article points to poor visual effects, even for back then, and also ridiculous costumes and awkward stunts. But maybe more importantly, it criticizes the shallow and cliché way the Middle East was portrayed.
Right, that's a big one.
Yeah, it really highlights how our thinking on cultural representation has shifted. What seemed like harmless adventure then might look pretty problematic now, stereotypical even.
That's a really crucial point, how those depictions age. Okay, Highlander. The series. Now this one. This has a serious fan base, right?
Oh yeah, very dedicated.
The article's take seems a bit different.
It does, yeah. The article basically calls it all cheesiness with no substance.
Ooh.
Cites repetitive storytelling and a lack of depth. Says it was more style than substance. But the listener comments tell a totally different story. So many people talk about the really rich world building, the character depth, the impact the show had, especially compared to the less loved movie sequels.
Yeah.
They mentioned the lore, the Watchers, the proto-immortals, the rules of the game. It just shows how a show can connect with people in ways maybe a critic looking back doesn't quite see. Yeah, totally.
It really makes you ask, what is depth? Different viewers connect with different things, you know?
It really does. The fans clearly found something there. Okay, another fan favorite, Charmed. The article brings up a noticeable drop in quality in later seasons.
Yep.
And the sisters' fixation on romance.
That's the main knock. It admits the show started strong, built a loyal audience.
Sure.
But the article suggests the later seasons kind of lost the plot. Too much focus on relationships, not enough on the actual magic and monsters or character growth.
Right.
And listener comments seem to back that up. People mention things like Phoebe's advice column becoming central, characters acting inconsistently. It's a common issue, isn't it? Long-running shows trying to keep things fresh.
Definitely. It sounds like maybe it went on a bit too long creatively. Then Earthsea. Based on Ursula K. Le Guin's books, which are just incredible, the article sounds not happy with this adaptation.
Not happy is putting it mildly. It says the show butchered the source material.
Stripped out all the complex world building, the really dumb themes. Turned it into a formulaic, rushed fantasy adventure.
Oh, no.
And worse, it points out the adaptation whitewashed the entire story, which goes completely against Le Guin's very intentional, diverse world. She was apparently very public about how unhappy she was.
Yikes.
So this isn't just about, like, dated effects. This is a fundamental failure to understand or respect the source material's core ideas.
Wow, yeah, that's a major failing. Okay, finally, Hercules. The legendary journeys. Pure camp, Greek myths. What's the modern verdict?
Well, the article acknowledges the low-budget special effects, the over-the-top fight scenes, the sometimes clumsy tonal shifts. We kind of expect that, right?
Yeah, part of the charm, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But the main point seems to be Kevin Sorbo's exaggerated masculinity. The article suggests that it might appeal to a narrower audience today, especially compared to its more progressive spin-off, Xena, Warrior Princess.
Ah, interesting comparison.
Yeah. And the listener comments are split. Some still love the cheesy fun. Others agree it's, quote, trash, though lots of people mention how great Lucy Lawless was in Xena.
Right.
Shows how humor and, well, portrayals of masculinity can really shift over time.
So looking across all these shows then, what are the big, like, recurring themes? Why are these shows seen as aging poorly?
You definitely see patterns. The obvious one, technology. Outdated effects, lower production values just look jarring now. Then there's how storytelling itself has changed. Pacing, dialogue complexity, plot expectations. They're different.
Yeah.
We also see cultural representation issues cropping up again and again.
Yeah.
Depictions that were maybe okay then are really scrutinized now.
True.
And of course, the adaptation problem. If it's based on a beloved book or game, not doing it well, that disappointment can really stick.
It's so interesting how the listener comments often add that extra layer, though. Like with Highlander or defending Kindred's RPG roots, it really reminds you these shows existed in a specific time and place.
Exactly. They were products of their time,
Yeah.
made with different goals, different constraints, and nostalgia is powerful.
For sure.
Like some commenters said, just because a show hasn't aged perfectly doesn't mean it wasn't enjoyable or important back then, or even influential. The comments really highlight how subjective it all is.
So wrapping it up, it seems like while these classic fantasy shows, you know, they hold a special place for a lot of us.
Definitely.
Looking at them now, through today's lens, like this article does. It shows some pretty clear reasons why maybe they don't click with new viewers. Dated effects, the storytelling, cultural stuff.
Yeah.
Time definitely leaves its mark.
Absolutely. And it's a good exercise, I think.
Yeah.
To consider how our own expectations as viewers have changed and are still changing.
Yeah.
What seems cutting edge today might look pretty creaky to people in the future.
That really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Which of the big fantasy shows we're all watching now, which ones might end up on a list like this in 20 years? What parts of their storytelling or their production or how they show the world might feel dated or even, problematic later on? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for digging into this one with me.